Good night and welcome to Mindful Life 446. These numbers, I have to get a big sign telling me exactly which live we are at the start of the live, because I have a tendency to not be sure sometimes. But it's the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome. I'm your host, Nathan Springer. Well, the co-host usually, but the host is out there doing what the host does. It is 10:24 late live in the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the 27th of December, nearly to the end of the year 2024, nearly into the beautiful new year of 2025. 2025 days into the current era, or the Christian era, or our anno domini, in the year of our Lord, according to which you would like to list it. Really and truly, they're all saying the same thing. So it's 2025, people. Nearly. Let's not jump the brush. We have 4 more days or so. What's the word? The word is babies. The word tonight is babies. To me, this might be some of the main proof, some of the main evidence, some of the main statistical points to highlight. If you're against the current government in Trinidad and Tobago, you don't like how they're doing things, this is the evidence that shows this. Let's jump into this story, an interesting story out here. Dialsing, fertility rate dropping. Health Minister Terence Dialsing said the fertility rate in Trinidad and Tobago has again decreased, going from 1.2 in 2023 to 0.9 in 2022. He said the rate needed to keep renewing the population of a country is 2.1. So, we haven't been at that renewal 2.1 rate for some time now. That 2.1 rate has been out of the cards for some time now. But even in the lower rate than our replacement rate, we are dropping. We were at 1.2 in 2023. Now we dropped below 1 in 2024. No, I think they have that wrong. Yes, it is in 2024. He said the rate needed to keep renewing the population is 2.1. The Dialsing made the announcement at the maternity ward of the Mount Hope Women's Hospital while speaking to the media after visiting the babies who had been born on Christmas Day. So, I always say it, I am a pro-baby kind of guy. I am a pro-natalist, and I use the word natalist because there's a movement of anti-natalists who basically say there are too many humans in the world right now. We need to drop that number. There are too many people. Oh gosh, the climate change and peace and all of that, and these people are evil. I make no apologies for saying it. Anybody who wants less human beings, I consider them to be anti-human, which is an evil position in my own opinion. So you're an evil person if you want less humans. I think we should have more people. And I was seeing the comments on this article online in various places, and people were talking like this is a good thing. People start to use the brain instead of having a whole set of babies out. Listen, if we don't have a whole set of babies out here, the whole human project on this beautiful little floating rock around the universe, best we wrap it up now and forget about it. The whole Trini project, forget about Trinidad. We done. Wrap it up. Forget about it. As it stands, the world would be left to the Mormons, the Muslims, and Africa. Mormons, Muslims, and Africa. The ones with the babies are the ones who go on. That's just the reality of life. It is just the reality of life. I think a lot of times we get so fantastical about the different complexities and theories, and we forget the basic stuff. If you don't eat, you would die. if you don't make babies, your civilization dies. Reality. So, maybe at some point in time, societies in this modern progressive era, at some point, should possibly try to encourage such. And I think, by and large, the societies that we have built in this more modern era discourage such. Because the people who are exclusively responsible for the manufacture, and transport of tiny humans, there's only one kind of person that could do that: women. And we are very busy in the modern era insisting that women do exactly as men do. The problem is, men can't do exactly as women do. So if the women come to replace the men in whatever the men are doing, maybe they're good at it too, but the men can't replace the women in what the women are doing. So, and I guess that might be a point in the women's category. Women could replace men in some things. Men can't replace women. It's just literally impossible. Remember a Muslim guy saying that to some Canadians, and he was 100% right. If you don't have babies, you aren't going to continue in your era. Even the ideas that you have are going to die out. Or you're a feminist and you believe in the liberation and independence and freedom of women, grand. I hope you teach all of that to other people's babies very convincingly. Because if you have none, then your beautiful feminist ideals die with you. You aren't teaching that kind of thing to my daughters. So you're the end of that. But listen to the numbers. Besides just a commentary on the style of society that we are building, beside that, because by and large around the world, the Western world, the developed world, by and developing, by and large, the numbers are decreasing all around. But let's look at Trinidad specifically and see what we could think and say about that. He said the total fertility rate was the number of births per woman aged 15 to 49 years. He said in 2015, there were 18,261 live births. Now, the years that we are going to take into consideration are the years the People's National Movement have been in charge of Trinidad and Tobago. The PNM took over in 2015 from the then People's Partnership. And when the PNM took over, the first year of PNM, people had 18,000 babies, 18,261. 2015, by the way, those 18,261 children turning 10 next year. You know? I just need a moment for that. I don't know if there are any people born 2015 sitting inside the life here. I doubt it. But for those of us born, let's say, before Y2K, just to think about it. How many people even know what Y2K is? I can distinctly remember. By the way, Y2K is the year 2000. Year 2K, 2000. I could distinctly remember the whole furor and fervor and the worries about what's going to happen when we go from 99 to 2000. I can remember that. I was seeing, hey, big up Mr. Regrello one time. I believe he's passed halfway through his attempt at 30 hours straight playing pan. Good for you, bro. Those wrists are going to be real strong after that. I was seeing at some point he was playing a song 2005 We Coming. Hey, y'all know that's, who was that? Showing? show in Winchester, and somebody was making the note he wasn't even alive in 2005. Bro, what? Or was he? I think he was just barely alive, but he didn't know what was going on. Like, how are you all out here? Anyway, I to pull back from the sidetrack there, we're looking at this from the year 2015. The year 2015, 18,261 live births were made. That was not our replacement rate, just by the way. That was below our replacement rate already. That wasn't enough babies. We already weren't making enough babies. Like, when you think about it, 18,000 is not a very big number. And that's why our number, our population has remained 1.3 million for the last, since we know ourselves. If you're considering 18,261 births, how many deaths are there of just natural causes per year? I don't know. I didn't research that. I have no idea what that number might be. I presume it would be in several thousands. And then we're killing 600. So out of that 18, how much could actually be added to the population? Okay. I did my duty. You understand? And yes, and Daddy did his duty. This is the host, folks. Say good night.
Night.
What you showing? What you showing the people? What's that? Yeah, 18,261. Of course it does, Otis. And the thing is, some people who think like this is a good thing, you know, all you only want to oppress the women out there and make them have whole sort of babies, barefoot and pregnant. Okay, maybe so. But no one is going to pay your pension. At the end of the day, no one is going to pay your pension. Like, okay, I know a large group of people really hate to hear when parents say things like you're making children to take care of you when you get old, because that's not what children are supposed to be there for. Well, yes. That isn't what you should go into making babies for, because you're looking for somebody to take care of you. No, that's selfish. But at the end of the day, that is what children and babies do. Because the statement, once a man, twice a child, or twice a baby, there bears some reality, some fact in that. As you reach a certain age, you're going to need people to kind of take care of you or help you out. And if there aren't other generations coming up the road. Let's look at those numbers. 2015, there were 18,261 live births with a fertility rate of 1.8. We weren't replacing. While in 2023, there had been 12,268. Right? So at the start of PNM, there was 18,261. After, that's 8 years to 2023 of PNM, we went down to 12,768 live births, which was a fertility of 1.2. 2024, the year of our Lord, 2024, this current present year, the number stands up until November. So we're only missing December, right? We have the numbers up until November. We don't have December yet. 2024, as up until November, is 9,794 births. $9,794 births for the year thus far. Only missing December. And with a rate of 9,700, let's say 9,800 for 11 months. That's around what? 900? per month. So if we're expecting 900 in December, that barely puts us above 10,000. $9,700 births, 2024. From the bad number in 2015. 2015 was already bad. 18,000. Halved in 9 years of PNM. And I think something like fertility rate can directly be pointed towards how hopeful a nation feels. A hopeful people make more babies. A hopeful people marry more, make more families, start more families. So I think that 9,000 number, the halving from 2015 till now, is a sign of how hopeful young people feel. And by and large, what this is saying is young people do not feel hopeful. They are not hopeful for this country. That's a PNM indictment, I think. It might also be noteworthy. What might also be noteworthy is the demographic distribution of births, for sure. But he didn't say that here. But for sure, the demographic distribution of births will be very interesting. It will tell a further story. But seeing as we don't have that here, we just have to use it at the general. But I'm sure if we could get the demographic breakdown of births, it will tell a story. And the story it might tell, if we could get that direct breakdown, might actually be a worse story, a scarier story, because the birth rate might actually remain stable for those in the lower classes of society. The poorer people in society may have a by and large stable birth rate. It might be the middle class, the middle income communities may actually be the demographic that saw the greatest downturn in children. Joe said it's not affordable and encouraging. The Alsing said he did not want to comment on the figures. I'm just sharing the statistics with the media, and hopefully you can spark some sort of national discussion. Please do not ask me what the solution is. I am not here to give you solutions. I am just presenting data facts. The thing is, the solution to few babies, really and truly, if we're being real, we being big people here, humans have always known the solution to not enough babies. I mean, we just celebrated Christmas, and as far as is known, Christmas is the only time that the process of how we get more babies wasn't utilized to get another baby. Beside that one on Christmas Day, beside the one guy that came on Christmas Day, everybody else came the same way. Came the same way. We know how it's done. It's not rocket science, really and truly. It's rudimentary science. Basic stuff. You don't really even need to teach it. So it's not really on how you solve it, because the solution is known. It's why aren't we solving it is the real question. Why aren't people solving it? Asked what the problem with the lowering fertility rate was, he said, we have gone from a fertility rate of 1.8 to a fertility rate of 0.9. I don't have the answer. The replacement rate to keep the population steady is 2.1, and year to date it is 0.9. The Elsing was asked if he thought it was a socio-economic issue where people were reluctant to bring children into the world without being able to take care of them. He replied, I'm not going down that road. I am giving you data. That's all I'm doing this morning, giving you data as I do every year. The media asked me to share the data, as I always do, so I'm just sharing the data. That's all I'm doing. I'm sharing the data for the media and national community to be aware. I'm just presenting data. I'm just presenting data for the national community. I have nothing more to say. The Elsing congratulated the mothers who had given birth and thanked the healthcare workers for their service. And it may drop again, Joe says. I think so too. It's a trend, and barring some kind of change, I don't see why that trend would see a reversal. I don't see a reason for the reversal of that trend quite yet. So I don't disagree that it may drop again. He should have just said too much men using grinder. Hey. What you trying to say there, Otis? Otis. Stop it. Let's go into some further stories that might show this. Some people say it's a financial issue. Joe was saying it's a financial issue mainly. And I don't disagree with you to a large extent. I do think that many people who aren't having children say the reason is financial. They don't make enough money to have babies and give them a life they deserve. That's what they say. Personally, my personal opinion is I think that's a symptom of the same thing reaching further. Because poor people make more babies. A fact of the world. Poor people make more babies. In many cultures, they make babies because they are poor and they want help. So the idea that a child is a liability, and a liability of several $1 million that you have to look forward to, is a modern creation. And it is not totally true. You could raise a very well-balanced, well-regulated, well-behaved, all-rounded child. And by the time the child is 40, it's probably profitable. If we're looking at it as a financial decision, it was a profitable endeavor for you. The child has made more money for you than the child cost you. And if you're making a child that is more expensive to raise than they could produce, then you're bad at rearing children. I think a well-regulated, all-rounded human being is going to provide more assets to society than liabilities. They will provide more in the green column than in the red column. Right? So the idea that you need $20,000 a month to raise one child, and if you're going to have 2 children, then you need $40,000 a month, and 3 children need $60,000 a month, that's wholly incorrect. And it's a fault of the lying modern times. The modern times have lied to us. That's not true. Christmas, your child doesn't need $5,000 worth of gifts. Your family doesn't need matching pajamas that run up a $1,200 bill for everyone. and a designer Christmas tree because we have to make the Christmas morning post where we all in the matching pajamas in front of the tree, in front of a fake fireplace. So that whole charade is going to cost us about $6,000. So before I have these children, I have to make sure I could fork out $6,000 every Christmas. No, that's not true. I wouldn't doubt. This is not an insult to anybody with the matching pajamas and so on and so on. And lovely stuff, lovely stuff. I like it together with the family. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But I wouldn't doubt many of those choreographed family matching pajamas pictures, the child probably had an uncomfortable Christmas just to make that happen. A lot of persons making approximately 5K to 6K monthly or less, and that's per month. I know. And there are people in countries around the world making less than $1 US a day and are raising 6 children. I am not giving a recommendation that you should do likewise. I'm just pointing out about the reality of it. That the idea that it's somehow impossible is wrong. That's not true. So either way, it's not really about the money. It's about the belief system that we teach. If we teach a consumerist belief system, what we're teaching to people is that we must be able to make a perfect little consumer or we shouldn't have babies. $6,000 in, I'm not even talking about in long time money, in modern day money. What $6,000 could get you? If you go back to 1920 and give any random George that $6,000 salary, whatever it may have been back in their day, I'm not talking about 6,000 then, whatever you could do to make it comparable back in their day, the buying power of 6,000 per month, now you give somebody back then and they will go and say, yes, I could start my family. True, but people ate from gardening and rearing animals then. That's part of the you're kind of saying what I'm saying there, Joe. We're honing in on the problem right there. We have decided to go in an unsustainable direction. The idea that all of humankind could live in urban centers on top of each other in high-rise skyscrapers where we drink Starbucks every morning and we don't see trees ever. We don't know where the groceries come from. That's unsustainable. And the dream we're giving every parent that that's what they should have is unsustainable. Some people complain, if I have children, how I'm sending them to school, you know how much it is for passage? Who says you can't teach them home? Internet and a computer, you might do more teaching than any school does in Trinidad and Tobago as a parent. Then we have to bring back the old time days to some extent. Yes, you see, that's what tradition is. Tradition is ideas that worked over time, and we decide that no, these traditions aren't worth it. Let's just throw them out and we'll do it a different way, and the different ways aren't working. Now, there is some reality to the economic side. But here's what I'm saying. The economic side isn't 100%. Central bank holds repo rate at 3.5%. The central bank has maintained its repo rate at 3.5%, citing low inflation, robust liquidity, and moderate economic growth. In its December 27th monetary policy announcement, the central bank reported that headline inflation remained subdued at 0.5% in November, up slightly from 0.2% in October. Core inflation, which excludes food prices, was unchanged, while food inflation rose to 3.1%. Liquidity in the financial system remains strong, supported by a reduction in the reserve requirement for commercial banks from 14 to 10% in July. All of this to say, financially, this year wasn't that bad for the country. So why did the birth rate continue to go down? Do you think the quality of living of the average person over the last 20 years has gone up or down? Are we living now, generally, by and large, more comfortably than we did last 15 years? I would say, without a doubt, yes. So the idea that it's just economic difficulty doesn't bear out in the facts of reality. But beside the economic side, especially Little Miss Mediator says, cause we have less children. Good, touche. Good statement. Kevin J says, good night, bro. I disagree, but good statement. The less children is why we live better. I don't agree with that, but good statement. The less children actually is why NIS is crumbling right now. So I don't believe it's actually economics. I think what it is it's a measure of hopefulness. And as it comes to Trinidad and Tobago, the hopefulness isn't just on the economy. Now, I think people say the economy because it's the quickest thing to come to someone's mind in summarizing everything. But you're making sure and too hard in it. A lot of women are oriented towards their education and careers, 100%. I said that at the start. Where the society we are designing a society where the only people who could make babies, we're telling them that, you should go and do the same things that the people who can't make babies do. So, yeah, as I was saying, women are theoretically able to replace men in probably the majority of fields. Not saying they would be equal to men, but they would be able to replace them. But men are unable to replace women in their main field. We aren't even able to resemble the replacement. We aren't able to even come close to imitating the replacement. We cannot do it. So it's foolish as a society to attempt to get all women to replace men when men are unable to replace women. Yeah, great. You could tell men that you should stay away from toxic masculinity and get in touch with your more feminine side and be a house husband and take care of the children and all. Yeah. But you still can't make the babies. Personally, I can't raise children the way I want to, the way the system's set up. I know many who feel the same way. I don't doubt it. And as I was saying, the way you want to is developed by society. The way you think you should raise children is a societal standard that you are given, or cultural. Maybe not societal, cultural, from whichever subculture you may belong to. That's how you were taught or learned that children should be raised. That isn't something hard and fast. That's learned. So it may not necessarily be a good thing. Not saying it's a bad thing, but it may not necessarily be a good thing. And I think if we are teaching people that if they cannot raise children the way they want to, then we really shouldn't have any children out here. Humanity is going to wrap up all of this nonsense in a quick time. Like, we should really read through some of our history. Do you think the people who had children out in the swamps and deserts and jungles of times gone by had the children and were able to raise them just the way they wanted to? This amount of melanin you're seeing in my complexion here, these genetic traits were passed down by people who chose to have children as slaves, knowing the children would also be slaves. How wicked and evil were those people? How you could have children knowing your child is going to be a slave? No! By no means! Really? Thank you, great grandpapa and grandmama. I'm very grateful. that you decided, even though think about this, your economic reality is slavery. Not in how we say slavery in modern times, but in the most literal sense of slavery. Actual slaves. What then? Some were forced to procreate though. Yeah, that's actually not that significant a number. The reason there are Africans in the New World is not because the slave masters forced the slaves to make babies and carry it on. That's not true. Humans have been having babies as slaves since time immemorial, because humans have been slaves and enslaving each other since time immemorial. So we have to question our views on baby making. If our views on baby making are design of privilege, as we see it in modern times, it's really privilege we're talking through. We're talking through the lens of privilege here, because that's not what babies and baby making is really about. And as I showed, the economic reality is not what many people think it is. We actually are not poorer. I am not poorer than my parents. 100% I am not. My parents had 3 boys. They were not in my financial position. Their 3 boys turned out real well. So it's not really directly finances. As I said, I think finances is a shortcut word. It's a shortcut word. The economy is a shortcut word where people are basically, what they're basically saying is we don't have hope. That's what it's saying. We don't have hope. I think Trinidad's economy could have been as it is now, and if there were 50 murders in the country, you'd have seen more babies. I think so. I think the murder rate of our country and the crime rate may actually have more to do with the birth rate than economics. Even if people tell you it's economics. Because what makes the country feel hopeless is not Petrotrin closing, Petrotrin closing is not what would frustrate people to think, this doesn't make sense, best I leave this country. No. What frustrates people to that level is murder, mayhem, robbery. The idea that I could be going about my life trying my best for my family and some random clown could come up and mash this whole thing up. And there's no consequence, and this is something that happens very regularly in this country. That's a hopeless thing. Way more hopeless than the economy only increasing by 2.2% in the last financial year. Nobody cares, really and truly. Do you think people go and take a readout from central bank before they go and make babies? I don't think so. I think it's a sign of hopelessness. And the hopelessness may actually have way more to do with that chaotic criminal feel that you get in the country. Our country feels chaotic and criminal. That does not feel like the place to have babies. Like, if I'm thinking about it, if there's no job for me, but I feel I could go by the riverside and plant whatever crops I could plant, rear whatever animals I could rear, and the benefit of such is going towards my family, then bro, I would have a family. I'll be a farmer, subsistence farmer, and my family and I, we go and live. But if I could do that, but I know that when I plant my crops, thieves are going to come in and move away with maybe 50-60% of my crops. They'll mash up another 20%. The police won't do anything. My animals would be stolen and butchered. My children are at risk of criminality anytime they stray out of region. Even in region, in my little shack, somebody could run in and destroy my whole life, and there's no consequence for them. And the system that we live in is corrupt to the core, where all the officers seemingly take bribes and turn the other way. And my child could be bounced down while crossing the bus route going to school by a police officer and just thrown out easily like that. These are the things that actually make you feel more hopeless, not the economy contracting by 2%. Nobody cares about that. Maybe Mariano Brown or someone. But generally, no one is watching that. I like your admission, Little Miss Mediator. I agree. You can't raise children the way you want to, and I am weaker than my ancestors. I like the admission. I like the honesty. I am not my ancestors. Great strength to mama. I am not her. The world is not procreate energy. You know how long I haven't heard his name? Yeah, and you see that sentence you said there, Little Miss Mediator? That one I believe 100%. The world is not procreate energy. Or the world does not have that procreation energy. The modern Western world is not oriented towards procreation. And I think that's part of the issue. The world isn't switched towards looking to build families. No. And this could be a controversial one, but I think some of that orientation started with encouraging more women into the workforce. Now, not allowing women to do what they want, but encouraging women into the workforce. Because that is a capitalist move. That is a move for the companies to increase their bottom line. That has nothing to do with building society. Nothing. And in fact, it works against such. A society, a culture that was oriented towards procreation may have been a culture that encourages a whole different stream of work for women. It encourages earlier boosting of careers, so that maybe by the time a woman reaches after 25, you're already in a phase of a career that you could coast as a mother. However that might look. But the idea that you encourage women into the same grueling million hours per week work schedule that you're encouraging men into, that's a beautiful thing for capitalism, but it's not a good thing for families. Families can't function like that. Mommy and daddy can't be married to the work. So 100% on that statement. PM disappointed about 600 murder toll. PM, Dr. Goodly Duck, sir, I am disappointed too. You aren't the only disappointed one, my dear Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has expressed disappointment that the murder toll for the year has crossed 600. Dr. Rowley promised government's continued full support for the police and urged the police, the judiciary and the population to work together with the government to bring crime under control. Listen, these statements that our leaders and the police keep giving, they aren't hopeful statements. And this is what I mean. Is this a hopeful statement from a leader? Our country had record murders. And our leader is disappointed and promised to continue fully supporting the police just as they have done before. So, what should be our expectation for 2025? If the ruling government says, I am disappointed, and as such, we will continue along the road we are going. What should we expect for 2025? Wouldn't we be fools to go into 2025 somehow expecting a change in the crime situation when the police say they're doing their best, they're going to continue as they're doing? The Prime Minister said he's disappointed, but he's going to continue supporting. We're just continuing as we're going. So what do we expect to change, really and truly? How is this a hopeful statement? If I have the means to do so, and I can leave this country, and I have a family to look after, what kind of guidance should I be taking from the leader of my country there? Come 2025, let's just see. I have the means to leave this country and go somewhere else. And I've been considering it because the violence is getting really overdone. The murders are ridiculous. Home invasions are popping up higher and higher. We don't have the ability to defend ourselves in case of a home invasion because getting a weapon inside your home is a very difficult thing. Kidnapping seems to be increasing now. Car thefts have always been rampant. Our police service seems severely compromised. So I've been considering that move all of 2024. But I'm saying, you know what? Let me see if there's a plan for 2025. And our commissioner comes out and says, we are trying our best. And we need the communities to work with us as we continue working our utmost best to do this. What? So this was your best? I wanted to leave with you trying your best. If you're telling me you're just going to continue doing as you're doing, where's the hope? Where's the hope in such a statement? Rowley said more work needs to be done in many areas to curb crime. It was my hope and genuine expectation that the ongoing national effort against violent crime, particularly murders and other violent assaults, would have seen a visible reduction in number as we go forward. Unfortunately, he continued, even the significant efforts of the national security agencies have not deterred the criminal minds which operate as though without fear of detection and certainty of timely dissuading punishment. Joe says no real harsh consequence for rogue action results in what we are facing now. Everything is bailable. You know, Joe, I heard was it I can't remember his rank, so Mr. Meister, Officer Meister, if I get your rank incorrect, I apologize. But senior officer, I don't know if he's a superintendent or what, I can't remember. But Mr. Wayne Meister was saying that part of the problem with the home invasions is they need some legislation with teeth. An ACP, grant. ACP Meister, he said they need some legislation because as it stands, home invasions aren't a serious violent crime per se on their own. So they need some legislation with teeth to deal with that. And I understand what he's saying. I understand that. That's what the judiciary, that's what the legislative branch is there for. Grant. But how many of these home invaders have been held? Court. How many? Because harsher punishments are a problem when you catch the people. So, it's a catching people issue first up. Then secondly, as we reach to the bailable side, this argument has been had a couple of years now. It has been ongoing. The problem with the bail, you cannot, bail isn't given when you are found guilty. Bail is given between when you are charged before you are found guilty. In that intervening time, you are seen in the law as innocent. Do you know how hard it is for an officer to obtain a warrant now? No, I have no idea. But apparently it's not that hard. They got one for a man in Barbados. And they get some very interesting warrants when they want to. During that same gun case, a judge ruled that they can't get warrants, that a certain warrant they got was unconstitutional and they have to return the man's property. Somehow the police were able to get another warrant for the same thing that a judge just told them they couldn't do. So the warrants seem to be able to flip backward and do somersaults when the officers need it for touchy cases. And when I say touchy, I'm not talking about touchy in terms of extremely violent and having a wide reach because of that. I'm talking about with political influence. Little Miss Mediator says Trinidad's crime problem seems so fixable if they treat every victim like an important person. And saying that, let me jump into another story that points at just that very issue. Mom fights DPP on top cop case after dangerous driving charge dropped. Do we treat all victims like important people? The mother of the teenage boy who was allegedly struck by an unmarked police vehicle in 2023 has initiated legal proceedings against the DPP after charges of dangerous driving against Deputy Commissioner Suzette Martin were discontinued. The case stems from an April 2023 incident on the Priority Bus route where the boy was allegedly struck by an unmarked police SUV driven by Martin. Despite initial approval of the charges by the DPP and recommendations from the Police Complaints Authority, the DPP issued a notice of discontinuance on December 16th, citing insufficient evidence after a review of CCTV footage and eyewitness statements. In her pre-action protocol letter, attorneys representing the mother challenged the DPP's decision, describing it as irrational and lacking transparency. KL Taklal Singh, Renuka Rambajan, Naveen Maraj, Stephen Mawa, and Karen Ram Kalawan represented the boy and his mother. They argued that the family was not consulted, nor were their views considered before the charge against Martin was dropped. Additionally, the letter raises concerns over potential bias, public interest, and the victim's right to justice. The mother seeks a judicial review, requesting a detailed statement of reasons for the discontinuation, as well as access to evidence and documents related to the case under the Freedom of Information Act. The DPP has until January 24th to respond to the claim. Ram Kalwan said their client had received information that Martin, the police officer, this is the case that was discontinued. They are saying they received information that Martin was not authorized to use the Priority Bus route at the time of the incident, nor did she have a PBR pass. Now, the DPP did come out and say the reasons. We read this. No, we read this. The DPP said there wasn't enough evidence. Well, I guess we'd have to see if that's true. And to me, I think this is 100% something that should be answered and should be put out there as clearly as possible. Because I think a case like this is at the foundation of the relationship and trust between the police, the law enforcement arm, the judiciary, and the population. This case is a pivot between all of that. So let's see how serious the government, the judiciary, and the police are about building that trust and rapport and relationship with the population. Seeing as Minister Keith Scotland, he came out and said they're trying but they need the population to help them. Okay. The Prime Minister said the same. They're trying but they need the population to help them. Okay. The Commissioner of Police said the same. They're trying but they need the population to help them. Okay. Well, seeing as you need the population to help you, let's see if you would help the population. And if you are willing to put it out there to ensure that the population can trust you. If true that she didn't have the authority to use the bus route, and the intended applicant stresses that she cannot verify same, this demonstrates disregard for the legal rules governing the use of the PBR, and certainly not expected of those entrusted with enforcing the law. In any event, a user of the PBR is expected to exercise due care and attention with regard to the pedestrian traffic and the traffic signals at the time. The letter, this is another part, very interesting, very, very interesting. Beside whether she had authority to be on the bus route or not, the letter referred to the Police Complaints Authority press release on the issue and its notice of a referral to the DPP and the Police Commissioner. In its referral, the PCA said CCTV footage provided independent evidence that at the time when the teenager was attempting to cross the bus route, the pedestrian crossing light was on and the traffic light was on red. It noted that while the teenager failed to use the zebra crossing and failed to look both ways before crossing, pedestrians had the right of way to cross at that time. A user of the PBR is expected to exercise due care and attention, having regard for the pedestrian traffic and traffic signals at all times. The CCTV footage showed that despite the traffic signals at the time and the pedestrian traffic around the vehicle, the senior superintendent continued moving forward. The CCTV footage showed that even when the vehicle being driven by the superintendent encountered the teenager, the senior superintendent failed and or neglected and or refused to exit the vehicle to render assistance. The senior superintendent can be seen talking to the teenager whilst remaining seated in the vehicle. The PCA's investigation also revealed that there exists no evidence of a PBR pass being issued in relation to the vehicle. It said an assistant commissioner was assigned to investigate and the PCA received an incomplete copy of his investigative file in July 2023. The information gathered during the PCA's investigation was referred to the offices of the DPP and the Commissioner for the consideration of instituting criminal and disciplinary proceedings. So, this is going to be interesting. They asked several questions. One is forced to ask the following questions. Did the CCTV footage change? Is it that the DPP is in the habit of not reviewing evidence thoroughly before citizens of this country are charged? Many questions to ask because they said they had enough to charge her first. So what changed? Joe says, I'm convinced the laws are here for the poor and lower, lesser class persons to follow. It's usually how it goes. Bear in mind, as we were talking about the last live, this same officer is the officer implicated in an alleged abduction out of Barbados. And she was promoted since then. With cases like this hanging over, I believe she is right now in the top 10 of highest officials in the police service. So, to orient it back to what we were talking about at the beginning, hopefulness. How hopeful can you be in a country like this? How hopeful do you expect regular citizens to be in a state as this? When it seems like even the police are above the law, they do as they please and the law ignores. So, to me, in such a case, the idea that many people in this country, she's second in command to the commissioner, wow. The idea that many people in this country feel hopeless, no surprise to me. If she is second in command with these cases hanging over her, and then the first in command, the commissioner herself, has outright refused to hold up rulings issued to her by the courts. So technically she should be in contempt of the court in multiple cases. So what? The commissioner could refuse judgments. The second in command is seemingly above the law. How hopeful should people be? Any surprise then that the already low birth rate has been plummeting even lower? All right, folks, that's all I have for now. Thank you for joining in. This has been the Mindful Live. I am Nathan Springer. I appreciate you all. Hit that like button if you are over on YouTube. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Make sure you share it to people who would like this kind of stuff. Sharing is actually the most effective way over on YouTube there to get the algorithm to like it. Share it. Share it. See who likes this kind of stuff. They may enjoy the content. All 400 plus videos, hours long of content. Be sure to tune in when we are live. Hey, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are 996 subscribers over there on YouTube, real close to the 1,000 mark. Let's just jump over the 1,000 out there. Run over to YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed if you are looking at it over there right now and you are not yet subscribed. That would be very strange. If you are still here on the video and you are not yet subscribed, very strange, very, very strange. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Until next time, people, it was nice. Hold it down. Stay well. Stay good. Make the babies. The regular viewers, no, I've been saying this all the time. Go make the babies, not just randomly. Yeah, make babies properly, but make the babies. We need them. Laters, Joe. Laters, everyone. Enjoy it. Enjoy the rest of the year. Stay safe. It's sketchy out there. Stay home now. Forget Audi. It's sketchy. Laters, people. Peace. I'm out.